Good evening, my friends. Zach here with the Trading Network. Hope you guys are doing well and that you've had a good week. It is Thursday, April 29th, and I've got another daily market profile recap for you for both the ES and the NQ futures markets. So let us dive into the key levels first and foremost. Starting with ES, we will flip on over to the profile. I will pull up the trade plan here with the key levels, and we will dig right in. So first level, actually let me move this up here. First level that I was looking at was the overnight high at 42.08. You can see this guy right there. Second level was 41.93. That was the prior range high. Third level was prior value area high. Fourth level was prior value area low. And the last level I was looking at was the prior range low on ES from yesterday at 41.72.75. So flipping over quickly to NQ, we will get into those key levels as well, starting with, once again, the overnight high. You guys, if you've been watching these videos, I'm sure you can see the pattern. The most important levels to me, generally speaking, are the overnight highs and lows, the overnight point of controls, the prior point of controls, the prior value area highs and lows, and sometimes the initial balance levels as well. So going into the second level, you can see was the overnight point of control, 14.23. Third level was prior range high. That was 13.982. Fourth level was the overnight low down here at 13.952. And last but not least, the last level was the prior value high right below that at 13.943. You can see we got some pretty significant extension below yesterday's range low into the session from April 23rd, regular trading hours. So let us dig right into the analysis that I was looking at and thinking of pre-market, starting with the overnight inventory. So I will go ahead and I will flip back over to ES. I will remove these arrows. I will show my profile overlay levels here, and we will dig right in. So overnight inventory was long on ES and NQ. That means that the entire overnight session, or the entire trading activity, the entire collection of trading activity, if you will, that took place outside of regular trading hours session, was above the settlement price from the previous RTH session, right? So overnight inventory was 100% long, and we actually opened with a gap. So just to show you guys on NQ, I'll pull up my levels real quick. There we go. And once again, settlement all the way down here, 13.892. And the overnight session was entirely above that right here from 13.952 all the way up to 14,064. So as you can see here, I said that ES and NQ are looking to open above Tuesday's range and value with a gap and go in play. This is telling us that there has been a strong change in sentiment since the last regular trading hour session to the upside. Because of this, I was looking at a trend continuation or a gap and go, or on the downside, I was looking at a gap close back down to the prior range high. So I'm going to kind of explain this a little bit more in detail for those of you guys who are newer to the channel, who are trying to learn a little bit more about market profile and how these strategies work. This is the gap and go. So what happens is when, just to make this very clear, here's yesterday's regular trading hour session, okay? When we open above the high of the previous regular trading hour session or below the low of the previous regular trading hour session, we are opening with a gap, right? So to make this abundantly clear, we opened right here. This is O period, okay? So the gap is between 41.93 and where we opened this morning. So we have a gap of 13 points, okay? So when we have a gap, the gap and go is what the strategy is referred to as, and it goes like this. When we open with a gap, the higher probability is to continue the overnight trend if we do not quickly move to close the gap. So you can see that today we did indeed move back down to quickly close the gap. And just to make this, or attempt to make this abundantly clear, this was the gap right? So we needed to come back down from where we opened and retest the high from yesterday, and that is the gap close. Now, a lot of times that can offer up support and give a good long opportunity. And you can say if that breaks, if the gap close level breaks, that is very likely going to give you a good short opportunity back into previous range. So that is exactly what happened. We had an open test drive to the downside. So once again, if you guys have been watching the channel, if you guys are getting familiar with the profile and the profile open types, then you should know about the open test drive. The open test drive is one of the highest directional conviction profile opens, and that is what we got today. So we opened here at O period. We moved up. We tested, we probed this area to see if any higher time frame players or big players essentially were interested in buying above the overnight high. The answer was quickly no. So we got rejected very swiftly with a single print selling tail. You can see there is only single prints at the top of this profile. That tells us that very little time was spent there and that sellers quickly stepped in and pushed price right back down into the overnight profile and eventually into yesterday's range. So what happened is we opened, we tested up, we got rejected, and we moved back down to close the gap. The gap close, yesterday's high did not offer up enough support, and we continued to move below and into actually Tuesday's session, okay? So we actually opened entirely above Tuesday's and Wednesday's session, to be clear there. So moving into or back into the analysis, I was looking at the overnight point of controls as the line in the sand levels. So I'll scroll down a little bit. And you can see I said today I was looking at the overnight POCs as the line in the sand levels at 41.99 on ES and on NQ at 14.23. You can see that guy right there. And just to show you guys real quick as well on NQ, very similar. So let's zoom in here, find O period on NQ right here. So this is where we opened on NQ. We got the open, we got the test, and we got that fierce drive. If you guys were watching today, if you guys read my trade plan, you know, really quick trade opportunity off the open once you saw the open test drive, once you saw the rejection of the highs on both ES and NQ. Very telling. Very telling if you're able to be in the right frame of mind to use this information properly. Say, okay, this was in the plan, so let me follow the plan. You know, you can use this as a guide and do your very best to follow these plans. Keep an eye on the profile open types and the strategies that go with them and use them to your advantage. So again, just to reiterate, if we could not move and hold above those levels, I was looking for a gap close. And if we could hold above those levels, I was looking for a gap and go, which means price does not move down and continues that overnight trend. So moving down into the scenarios here, just to reiterate, I was looking at this overnight POC on NQ and the overnight POC on ES right here, 41.99. And the gap and go was in play until we broke back below. We got the open test drive to the downside. We broke the line in the sand and struggled to move back up until later in the session. So the gap close is what we got indeed, and it was a pretty interesting day to trade. It was fairly strong directional conviction right off the open, and towards the end of the day, we actually moved down into, again, these lows from Tuesday. You can see there as well on the ES profile, and we moved back into the profile again that I mentioned earlier from the 23rd on NQ all the way down to 13,818. So let us get into the targets and we'll see how things played out in regards to the line in the sand and the targets that I was looking at. So starting with ES, the line in the sand, of course, was that 41.99 level that we have been discussing. I was interested first and foremost in that 42.12 level. 42.12 actually was a Fibonacci pivot, I believe. Let me double check here. We can actually go over to the regular chart and check it out ourselves. Okay, so 42.12, let me clear some of this stuff up here. 42.12 was not fib pivot. It was actually the second upper deviation of VWAP, and it ended up being our opening range high as well. So as you guys may know, when we are at all-time highs, it's really hard to pick out targets. You can use measured moves. You can use, measured moves on the profile, things like that, of course. Or you can use things that give you projected levels, like Fibonacci pivots, which you see here, or VWAP deviations. This particular VWAP indicator is part of the Trading Network proprietary indicator package. And this gives me targets. It's very, very helpful trading at all-time highs to have something like this that gives you levels to target when we're in no man's land, essentially. So you can see 42.12 ended up being our first upside target, and we never got it hit. We got up to 42.11 and got rejected there. So you can consider that the bears were in control the entire session. We peaked above, moved swiftly below, and never revisited that high that we made in the first 30 minutes of the session, also known as the initial balance. Okay, so that is something very telling. Just to show you guys here, this is the opening 1 minute range. We call it the opening range tune. This is a part of the TTN indicator package as well. And this indicator is based on an old floor trading strategy. And it is essentially a pretty easy way to give you a visual indication of who's in control right off the open. And what I mean by that is you can see we create the opening range, right? It's based off the opening 1 minute candle, and we never come back and move above the opening range for the entire session, right? So for instance, if we move above, we peak above, we move below, we reject off the bottom, that tells you that there's strong downside conviction and that we are likely to see downside pressure, right? The opening range is very telling. Floor traders have been using it for a very, very long time, and I have adapted it to my strategy here, trading on the screens. So I just wanted to give you guys a look into that as well. And if you guys want to learn more about the opening range tune or want to learn more about the indicator package, check out those links in the description below, which I will remind you to do once again at the end of the video. So aside from that little tangent, let's get back here into the targets. You can see no upside targets were hit. We got within 1 point of the first one, and into the downside targets hit. First and foremost, I was looking at 41.93. That was yesterday's high. We got that hit in the initial balance, first 30 minutes of the session. Second downside target was 41.8825. That was yesterday's initial balance high. The initial balance, for those of you guys who are not familiar, is the opening 1 hour range. So pretty much the same exact thing as the opening range tune indicator that we were showing you, or that I was showing you here, but it is the first hour, right? And you can also use the initial balance as really the same type of indicator, the same type of tool. Watch who's in control, watch the reaction to the initial balance levels, and you can take edge from that. Significant edge, I will say. So third downside target is going to be 41.8350. 41.8350 was the overnight low. You can see that right there. Just a handful of points below initial balance high. Next downside target that I was looking at was 41.7575, and you can see that that was yesterday's value area low. We got that hit towards the end of the session. And last but not least, I was looking at 41.7275, which was yesterday's prior range low. So we got all of our downside targets hit. We got one of them hit in the initial balance, the first hour of the session. The rest of them, we had to be pretty patient. But if you were patient, it certainly paid off today. If you could wait, follow that directional conviction, allow that wind to be at your back, and use it to your advantage, you were very likely making money today. So with that said, very, very similar day on NQ as we move over here into the NQ market profile. And the NQ market profile tells a very similar story. I'll pull up the levels here and we'll get into the targets. So first upside target on NQ did actually get hit. It was 14,050. And the second upside target was 14,063. And that was the overnight high when I made the trade plan. So we actually peaked up 1 more point after I finished my trade plan. But we only got one upside target hit. So similar to ES, not a lot of upside strength today at all. We got that open test drive to the downside, fierce rejection, that higher time frame or the other time frame players were not interested in buying above these highs right here. And it is going to be very interesting to see how the week finishes up, to see if we can get back above value, and to see how, this structure, or if this structure gets repaired tomorrow or later next week. So moving into the downside targets, as we only got one upside target hit. First downside target I was looking at on NQ was 14,007. You can see 14,007 was the overnight low from the very, very small overnight session we had from the April 26th into 27th session. So second downside target on NQ you can see here is 13,982. We mentioned that a little bit earlier very briefly, which also coincided with the overnight high from that previous session and the value area high from the session before that. And you can see there's very good confluence in this area as well. A lot of good levels there. So that's going to be, in my opinion, an important level to work back above for the bulls to maintain strength. And you can see we've got that single print structure above there. And typically when you see that weak structure, the probability is very high for it to get repaired, for price to go up, revisit, and repair that. So moving into the third downside target, I was looking at 13,970. 13,970 was the point of control from the April 26th regular trading hours session. The second to last downside target was 13,952. You can see 13,952 was, again, a very good level with a lot of confluence. We had the overnight low from the most recent session, POC from the 27th, value area low from the 26th, POC from the 23rd, and we also had that overnight high right there from the 26th as well. So a lot of confluence in that area, a lot of market profile levels stacking up, and that is what I like to see for targets. Last level, 13,913. We did indeed hit that, and that was the POC from yesterday. So this was our last downside target. You can see we got almost 100 points below that. So, you know, if you took a short on the break of 13, once you saw that level didn't hold, you still got more targets, even if I don't give them to you. You know, if you're using the profile, you can target the previous lows. You can target these areas from previous profiles, and they will give you a lot of good levels to look at and look towards where price is very likely to get sucked into. So you can see, like right in this area, overnight low, value area high, initial balance high, that is, and of course today's low. So just to kind of recap here, bears were in control all day. We got the open test drive, same profile type on NQ and ES. If you guys are using the profile, if you're studying the profile, analyze today's price action, analyze today's profile structure, because it's textbook. We got an open test drive, which is high directional conviction. We had a gap and go in play, and we saw bears come in, smack price down, couldn't even get to the overnight high, let alone above it, and we had strong selling throughout the entire day. So again, analyze this structure, start to use this stuff to your advantage, and you guys will really see it pay off in the long run. I want to thank you guys, as always, for taking the time to watch these videos. If you do enjoy what you see, please like and subscribe down below. You can find a link to our free Facebook group as well down below, where I release these trade plans on a daily basis, Monday through Friday, every day at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. You can also find a link to our website down below, thetradingnetwork.io, where you can learn more about one-on-one mentorship with me. I offer 4-week mentorship programs, 10-week programs, and a few other varying lengths. You can also learn more about the Trading Network Proprietary Indicator Package, which we discussed in this video, as well as joining the Trading Network private Discord, where you can watch me and the Trading Network team trade live daily, again at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. And last but not least, you can learn more about the Fundamentals of Futures Trading course, which is my comprehensive course that goes over varying strategies for different market conditions. I give you guys from A to Z a strategy for a trending market and a strategy for a ranging market. A lot of traders, especially new traders, think that you can use one strategy for all market conditions. There's no one-size-fits-all strategy, and that is why I provide different strategies for different market conditions. You can also get access to the FFT course bundle that includes the proprietary indicator package and lifetime Discord access. As always, thank you guys again. If you have any questions, you know where to find me, and I hope to see you in our private community very soon.